This right here is the single most annoying thing about FPV. Not this specific battery, but LiPos in general. Charging them is a pain in the butt. You gotta plug them into the charger, you gotta press all the buttons on the charger, select the program, set the C rate, set the charge rate, the amp rate, and then when you're charging them, if they're damaged, or maybe sometimes for no reason at all, they just light on fire and burn your house down. LiPos are a pain in the butt. And that's driven some people to design quadcopters like this, the Eachine LR3. See, it runs off of 18650 cells. They're still lithium batteries, but they're in this tubular form factor, and that means that when you want to go fly, you just pop it in, just like a AA battery, and you go fly. And when you want to charge it, you just pop it into a cradle charger. There's no programming, there's no C rates or anything like that. It just slowly and safely charges. What could be more convenient? So why hasn't everybody just switch to this style of quadcopter? Might there be some hidden drawbacks to this quad that I'm going to tell you about in this video? I'm Joshua Bardwell. You're going to learn something today. The Eachine Nano LR3 in this video was sent to me by the manufacturer for the purpose of this review. I have not received any cash or any other form of compensation in exchange for this video, and no one has had any approval or preconditions on the contents of this video before it was released. The big reason why we are not using these 18650 style cells on all of our quadcopters, and instead we use LiPo batteries that you're probably used to, is performance. These lithium cells simply do not have the ability to deliver the amount of current that our quadcopters typically require. Now, when we talk about running quadcopters off of 18650 cells, we got to stipulate that we're not talking about battery packs like this. You can obviously take a bunch of 18650 cells, this is a 4S package, and you wire them together in series or parallel, and if you get enough of them, then you could fly any quadcopter. But they tend to get much heavier than using a LiPo of equivalent performance. The original version of this quadcopter was the HGLRC Recon 3, and it was designed by a guy named Dave C., who specializes in lightweight long-range builds, and it ran off of just one 18650 cell. I actually reviewed it. I'll put a link to the review down in the video description if you want to check it out. But it had some problems. Like, don't get me wrong, it is an astounding achievement to run a quadcopter off a single 18650 cell, but the performance left a little bit to be desired, especially because these batteries go all the way down to 2.5 volts. Not 3.0 volts like a LiPo. And most of the electronics that our quadcopters work off of don't do well below about 3.0 volts. So literally, if you ran that thing low enough, like your video transmitter would just cut off, or your quadcopter would reboot and fall out of the sky. Eachine have done something different with the LR3, and that is that they've designed it to run off of two cells, one on the bottom and one on the top. And that means you're getting 8.2 all the way down to about 5.0 volts, and that is more than enough to run all your electronics. In addition, that higher voltage is going to give you, well, you got two batteries, so you're going to get better current, better amp delivering capacity for performance, and you're going to get longer life because you have more battery. But you also have more weight. The Eachine LR3 comes in at 191 grams as flown. Good news, it's under 250 grams for those who care about that. And that's actually not that heavy for a 3-inch quadcopter. But how does it actually feel when you're flying it with these 18650 cells instead of flying a typical 3-inch with a LiPo? Alrighty folks, let's take this guy out for a spin. And I do want to say that I have got the good batteries. These are high discharge Sony cells, not the sort of low discharge cells that I use for my goggles. So we should get the best performance possible out of these guys. And I immediately noticed that I'm flying at a much lower throttle position than with the crappy cells. We're at about 60% throttle, whereas we were closer to 70-75% throttle before. Even if I try and push a little bit of speed, we're definitely getting better performance out of these cells. It's still not, like, that's full throttle. It's still not a beast by any means. It is a cruiser for sure. As far as video performance goes, this 400 milliwatt video transmitter, it's going to be okay. Like, I may as well just try and go out a little bit while I'm at high throttle. It does have GPS rescue. I took off before I got GPS lock, so I don't really trust Betaflight GPS rescue anyway. It's better than losing your whole quad, but it is not trustworthy. I would never intentionally trigger GPS rescue, and I would never intentionally take a risk that could result in me losing my quad just because I had GPS rescue to back me up. Nevertheless, we can see we're getting plenty out here. If I turn around, I'm going to get worse video, I'm sure, because of where the video antenna is, but we're getting plenty of range out here on 400 milliwatts. Just keep flying these batteries down and see how our flight time goes. With 3.5 volts remaining on the battery, you would start, if this was a Lipo, you would start thinking, oh, well, we're nearly done. But this is not a Lipo. These are 18650 cells, and they can go down to at least 3.0 volts. At least certainly 3.2 or 3.3 volts before they start getting so saggy that you would want to land. But they can technically go down as low as 2.5 volts without like being permanently damaged, unlike Lipos, which below 3.0 volts they are taking damage. So we can keep at 3.4 or 3.5 volts, we absolutely can just keep flying and not even worry about it. Like, there's no way I would freestyle this. If I was very careful, I could start to do some kind of cruising, fast cruising with some turns. If I absolutely was confident I knew where I was going to need to go, and I was not going to get any surprise responses, because there just is not enough power in this guy. See, like there's just not enough power to be able to make corrections aggressively. So you absolutely just need to get your lines 100% right. If you do that, you can see that it can sort of squeeze out a little bit of performance. You're just going to have no margin for correction. Look where my throttle is right now. I'm at 75, 80%. There is no margin for corrections here. There's no margin for mistakes. You're going to need to stay well away of any obstacles just to give yourself any margin at all. But it can get some fun shots. There's no way, there's no world in which I would be doing any sort of freestyle punch outs or anything. There's just no throttle left for that. We're down to 3.2 volts after about 5 minutes of flying. And this is not super aggressive flying, but you know, I'm cooking a little bit. Like, as long as I don't punch too hard, I'm gonna be okay. I'm going to keep flying for a really long time. 3.1, still in it, still hanging in there. Oh dear, that was almost problematic. Now the battery's complaining. Now, see, now it's dropping out rapidly. See, it just went, I'm going to bring it in very carefully. It just went from like 3.0, and then it went 2.9, 2.8, 2.7. When you start seeing it drop like that, that means that you're at the end of the battery's voltage curve, and it's time to bring it home. So that brings us to the end of the video, and as always, the question, should you buy it? And I gotta respect what Eachine is trying to do with this quadcopter. They looked at quads like the HELRC Recon 3 that run on one of these batteries, and they said, could we solve some of those problems by making it run on 2 of those batteries? Makes sense, right? Higher voltage, larger battery, more flight time, more performance. But I think overall, I don't feel like they necessarily improved the package. It depends on what your priorities are. The flight time of the Eachine LR3 is going to be longer on 2S than other quads on 1S. More battery equals longer flight time, but you're not going to double it by doubling the battery because you have additional weight. The LR3 advertises a 20-minute flight time. The HELRC Recon 3 advertises a 15-minute flight time, and of course I didn't hit either of those flight times in my testing, but I'm sure somewhere somebody did on a perfect battery. So you get maybe 25% more flight time, 33% more flight time. Fair enough. But the trade-offs, I'm not sure are going to be worth it, depending on whether you're just doing light cruising, long-rangey stuff, or whether you actually want to fly the damn thing. Because the additional weight of the 2S batteries on the Eachine LR3 you're flying this thing at 65 or 70% in the throttle, down to 90% as the battery empties, whereas the HDLRC Recon 3 with only a single battery was flying at 45 or 50%. It had a much, much better thrust to weight ratio. And no, neither of these is going to be an acro superstar, but you just have a little bit more reserve to fly the quad with a 1S battery compared to 2S. The other effect of the weight is on durability. And I have to acknowledge that I did not break my Eachine LR3, despite the fact that I crashed it several times. And I did break my HDLRC Recon 3 the very first time I crashed it. But I have seen other reviews, because I do my research, of the Eachine LR3, and they commented that they broke it. So I think I might have just gotten lucky. It stands to reason that those two frames are designed very, very similarly, and you have more weight on the Eachine LR3, it's going to be less durable because it's going to hit harder in a crash. So it flies worse, it's presumably less durable, but it gets slightly longer flight time. But it's only got a 400 milliwatt video transmitter, so it's not like you're going to be going 10 miles out anyway. Cue the guys in the comments linking me to someone flying 10 miles on that video transmitter. Fine. There you go. If you've decided that the Eachine LR3 is a good quadcopter for you, then there are links down in the video description if you decide to pick it up. Those are affiliate links, and that means that when you make any purchase at the affiliated store, after you click the link, I get a small commission on everything you buy. You decide to pick this up, you decide to pick the Recon 3 up, you decide to pick a new battery or anything up, click the affiliate link, go do your shopping and check out. It's an easy way for you to support the channel, and it doesn't cost you anything. What do you think? Did they make it better, or did they just make it different? Maybe Dave C. had the perfect formula when he designed the 1S version of the quad. And for 2S, you need to be, I don't know, going up to 4-inch. What do you do? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. I'm not sure I'm the guy to answer that question. Thank you so much for watching. Happy flying.
Do you see this baby? Isn't he cute? Hit the subscribe button. Join my Patreon. Use my affiliate links. Or just keep watching videos. That's better than nothing.
Go, go, gaga, subscribe to my daddy.